Thank you. It's truly an honor to be with you tonight to celebrate the work of the ACLU and NYCLU. But just real quick before we begin, I just wanted to check in and say, what the fuck has been going on? Right? It's never been easy to be me. But let's be honest, in the past few years, things have been brutal, right? I'm just here. I'm just like minding my own business, right? I'm not telling anybody how to live or who to pray to or marry or love or whatever. And yet I have all these dudes who studied at the Mike Pence School of Ew, girls, telling me what I can and cannot do with myself. Women, too. Did you know this? There are actual human women who are passing laws in direct conflict with their own uteri. It is so upsetting to me, it brings tears to the uterine opening of my oviduct. I mean, can someone please explain to me why some person from Kentucky who's never even met me should get to legislate what I do with myself? I'm from New Jersey, Mitch. Anyway, I just needed to get that off my myometrium. Fortunately, the ACLU has been fighting its ass off to defend me and my compadres since 1920. Yes. By showing the world that reproductive rights are one of our most vital constitutional liberties. Do you remember the Constitution? That adorable little thing? The ACLU has been involved in one way or another in nearly every major Supreme Court case dealing with reproductive freedom. Just getting up there, just getting up in those judges' faces, telling them, you tell your lawmaker pals to mind their own business. This shit doesn't concern them. Now, as Donna mentioned, back in January, the NYCLU passed the Reproductive Health Act, and that was such a happy day in my life. You know, I was like, maybe I can finally chill. But just as I was settling in to rewatch Fleabag with a glass of wine and my infundibellum, I started getting calls from some of my buddies in Ohio and Alabama and Louisiana, and let me tell you what, they were not feeling relaxed. Right? It's like these politicians were just watching The Handmaid's Tale thinking like, wow, this Gilead seems like a great place. Let me write this down. Cool hats. I mean, Jesus Christ, everyone in my posse knows they can always come to New York if they need to crash on my couch, but I live in a studio, and at a certain point, I can't handle the kind of volume that we're talking about here. On my worst days, I go to a really dark place, and I think about what some of these schmucks have actually said out loud in public. Like, if it's legitimate rape, the female body has a way of shutting that whole thing down. Remember that one? That one was a classic. And who can forget, if babies had guns, they wouldn't be aborted. What does that even mean? Let's unpack that. So are they saying, like, the babies should be born with little teeny guns that then grow? Or are we just, like, shoving guns up there, giving them to babies, asking them to shoot us? Anyway, I could talk about that for hours. And those are real quotes, you guys. These are the kind of dumbasses that we're up against. And that scares the uterine lining out of me. Listen, I don't want to be a downer here. You guys seem like a nice audience. But I'm not the only one dealing with this kind of bullshit. Every single day that Ted Cruz's and Lindsey Graham's and Jim Jordan's of the world wake up and try to shut down not just my rights, but the rights of my LGBTQ friends, immigrants, Muslims, basically anyone who Brett Kavanaugh wouldn't want to, like, play beer pong with. That fucker. It's honestly enough to make me want to say fuck it and move to Greenland. But then I found out that the president is trying to get his mitts on that place too. So then I'm just back to square one, just sitting, stewing in my own rage, using my secret Twitter account to send hate tweets to Donald Trump Jr. That's no way to live. So do you know what I do to get out of my funk? Do you know what I do? Number one, I think about all the ACLU and NYCLU warriors getting out there every day. And protecting all of us from these cretins. Last year, the ACLU sued the Trump administration and won over its bogus 2020 census question, which was an obvious attempt to undercount immigrant communities. Yeah. The NYCLU went to battle on behalf of Linda Dominguez, a transgender woman who the NYPD arrested and charged with false impersonation for the crime of providing officers with both her previous and current legal names and then explaining that she had changed her name to align with her gender identity. It won a ruling that said police officers cannot do ICE's bidding. It made voting more accessible, and at this very moment, they are fighting to legalize marijuana, which brings us back full circle to my question, do you know what I do to get out of my funk? Drugs. I also stand in line at the TKTS booth in Times Square. And I treat myself to a Broadway doubleheader. From Slave Play to Hadestown to Oklahoma to my girl Celia and To Kill a Mockingbird. These performers lift me up and remind me that I am not alone. Together, we can chorus line these civil rights bashing motherfuckers out of existence. And no, I don't know what that means, but it gets me fired up. And now, let us bring out our next performer, 4-time Tony nominee, Judy Kuhn.